Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong. I wanted to share a few things that are going into the shop. You know that I have just fallen in love with these little fabric journals, and I completed another one yesterday that I just wanted to share. It is just a completely fabric journal with journal cards inside. So they're fun, they feel so good to hold. This one is an ocean themed kind of mermaid little journal, and you can see the button on the front has got an anchor on it. I believe this is a vintage button because it came from a jar that I have that's full of vintage buttons. This particular one, I have no idea where it came from. There's a little piece of trim here. It reminded me of mermaids because of the little mirror type embellishment sewn in. It made me think of the Little Mermaid and how she collected things from the land and she would bring them down into her house like a mirror and just different treasures. All of the fabric is beach or ocean themed fabric. You can see that this had starfish and seashells, and then there are just really pretty journal cards with a lot of vintage images, and there are some charms that I made. I love this one because it has the freshwater pearl, and of course the blue reminds me of the ocean, and that looks like the eye of some sort of creature. On this page there's a little pin that looks like a lamp that would burn maybe from a lighthouse or out on the ocean just to keep watch. There's a vintage image. And then in this pocket we have another vintage image from, that was a travel poster. And there are 4 stamps from Australia showing lighthouses. And you could write on the back of that or just save that. This fabric had a banana on it that looks like a banana boat. This fabric is really neat. You can see a little bit on this piece, part of a palm tree, and this fabric just shows all sorts of tropical plants growing out of large seashells. It's you can see a leaf there, a really pretty fabric. And in this pocket we have a piece of wallpaper. That is an image from a painting by John William Waterhouse. He's one of my favorite artists. Just beautiful paintings he does, or he did, I should say. And that's from an old book with seashell images. I believe that was from a Dover publication. They do really nice images and clip art. There's a little button shaped like a seashell. Another piece of wallpaper. There's a mermaid on the shore. That's just a little piece of blue cardstock for writing on. And then there are some sea creatures, especially turtles. And this is an old ad from, I think I got this from the Graphics Fairy. Her site is wonderful, but it shows the mermaids, and this was an ad for a hair product. That's from a children's game showing some sea creatures. I love this little piece of gold netting sewn along the edge. It reminded me of a net, like from the sea. You can see the ocean themed fabric throughout. I love this bright fabric, and that's part of a seahorse, as you can see. I've tied on a couple of vintage beads. I love this blue and white. You could take those off if you wanted to. There's one on each string. And then this is just a piece of eyelash trim that I laid between 2 of the pages as a bookmark. It made me think of the sea. There are some strings. It reminded me of seaweed. I love when things unravel a little bit, as you know. Again, there are more vintage images. There's another mermaid by John William Waterhouse. There's from an old travel poster. And another mermaid. Isn't she beautiful? All of these images, to the best of my knowledge, are in the public domain. And there is another charm that I made. Again, it's got a lot of blue and more images, ocean related images. And there's Mermaid polka. You can see the mermaid sitting around in a little cove. Another card, which you could write on the back of that. Little journals like this are great to make little notes in. If you take a vacation, you could put ephemera in here. You could make little notes to remember your vacation. You could put small photographs in here. So there are a couple of other cards there. You can see the other part of that little banana boat. And there's that pretty fabric. And there you can see one of the large seashells on that fabric. I love this card. I think this may be my favorite. She looks like she's wearing a mermaid costume. You can see her feet behind the fin. And then more beautiful vintage art. This is botanical work. I can't remember who did that. I will try to put links to all of the artists in the description. And there is a vintage image. I believe that was a government poster. Save the products of the land, eat more fish, they feed themselves. So that's kind of odd. And there's one more charm. It has the star on it for the starfish. And these little bright beads, they reminded me of sea glass. And then on the back, one of my favorite little spots. This is from a vintage, it was a little tiny pillowcase. I think it must have been a baby pillowcase. But it says a bit of the sea. I stamped that on. And of course there's some lace or a seam binding trim. And that is that. This is going into the shop. I am working on more of these this weekend. I wanted to share something else. I wanted to show you some of my most recent fabric purchases. And if anybody sees anything that you want, please feel free to contact me. And I can put together a package. You know, I can mail one piece, I can mail 10 pieces. And we could talk about postage and weight. This is a really neat fabric. I don't know if this came from a curtain or if it was, I do think it came from a curtain because there are two different types of fabric sewn together. But you can see this very neat stitching. And this could have been a fabric sample in a showroom, even though it is made like a curtain. You can see this hem. But I've seen this before, and both of these fabrics are by this Scalamandre, and this is a vintage fabric. It's 1998, historic Newport, but that's just really pretty. This is a beautiful heavy fabric. It would make a beautiful ocean-themed journal. This fabric is heavy enough for a cover if you do the one signature journals. So I definitely wanted to share that. And it's hard to show in pictures on Etsy just how beautiful something is. And they limit the number of pictures you can do. So here is a pretty silky piece of fabric. It's got the fan on it, really pretty. This is kind of grungy to me. I love this. This is a cotton. It's very boho with this vintage looking rose pattern. The black and the brown or sepia, however you choose to say that. This is pretty as well. You see the back of that? Very boho. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And then this side, of course, has the the leaf, the gold leaf. And then here is an Asian themed fabric. You can see all of the beautiful, looks like Japanese ladies to me. I think about the kabuki dancers and All these beautiful kimonos. That's just really pretty. This is cotton. And here is a piece with the gold dragonflies. As usual, I always have some small pieces. That's really pretty. That and that. These are real satiny feeling pieces. And I love this sheer fabric with the yellow designs on it. Really, really neat. And there's another small satiny piece with some embroidery on it. This fabric is really neat. This piece is about 24 by 24 inches, I believe. And it is a seaside sort of print. But anyway, that's really neat. See, I guess he's holding something. Just the way they're dressed. Look at the long pipe. And more pretty pieces. That would be really pretty in a boho, that beautiful blue. And this is pretty. That's got a raised pattern. It's sort of quilted. You can see the rose pattern on there, and that's that pretty lavender. And then a couple of small pieces. That's pretty. Here is another large piece. This looks like linen. And this was a sample. This is really neat. Even though this is just a small piece, I love the letters on that. This looks like silk, but it's polyester. That might be silk. It's a pretty color. More of that sheer fabric with the yellow pattern on it. And then here is a long, narrow piece of a really pretty yellow fabric. I like this. There's a nice piece with some raised embroidery on it. I like the silver in that. And this has elephants on it, one sort of on each edge, and the horse. That makes me think Arabian. It's neat. Got a nice texture. It's probably faux suede. It's really soft. This is pretty. That could go with so many things. The green and white, it could go with Christmas. It could go with a nature journal. It could go with a Victorian or anything. A bird-themed journal. It's just really pretty. And that also is about 24 by 24 inches. And it is fun just to share these fabrics, whether, not even just to try to sell them. Again, it's hard to take enough pictures to really show how pretty they are. But I think it's just fun to see everything that I came across. Yeah, let me pull that out. That had part of a sticker on it. A lot of times these samples have labels that are stuck to them, and I always make sure to cut that part off so that you don't have anything sticky that might go under your sewing machine or whatever. That's neat though. I love that weave. And you could unravel that, which of course I like to do. That's pretty. And that's pretty. Cotton. There's a nice satiny piece, and that's pretty. That's kind of an upholstery, tapestry sort of feel. This is beautiful. Aquitaine, printed in England. You can see it has birds on it. We all love the birds. Really pretty. So that's up for grabs. And just feel free to message me. I will put my contact information. I have Gmail, a bit of birdsong at gmail.com. That's pretty. That's embroidered. Machine done, of course. Another pretty green piece. But you could also contact me on Etsy, a bit of birdsong. Etsy or Gmail. Ooh, that's really pretty. I love that some of these fabrics, you could really use either side. Sometimes they're so pretty on both sides, it's hard to tell which is the right side. This is gorgeous. I think once you cut into this, you might have a little bit of fuzz or whatever to drop away, but when you sew around the edges, these fabrics typically do pretty great, and they're that it's just so tactile. I love this. I love that green. It reminds me of moss. And here is a blue and white. That almost feels like sailcloth, or that's a really heavy cotton. I love the little blue leaves. I believe this fabric is vintage. I love the colors. I love the mushrooms in this fabric. I have several pieces of this if anyone is interested. You could cut parts of this out for a nature journal, or this could be a kitchen or recipe journal cover, or just if you're looking for fabric like this. Again, there's another kind of large piece. I love those bright colors. I do have a renewed listing in the shop for wallpaper. 30 sheets for $6. I went up only by 50 cents. That is mostly because Etsy fees are going up. When you have an Etsy shop, if you haven't had one, it seems like you get charged every which way. You get charged 20 cents to list an item, which is really not much. I'm not complaining about that. But then they take a percentage of your sale, which that's what just went up. If you get paid through PayPal, PayPal charges a fee. And aside from just mailing something where you're paying, just outright straight postage, you also have the cost of your packaging supplies. And I go through so much packaging tape. It is unbelievable. It seems like every time I turn around, I'm going out and buying $10 worth of tape to restock. And so I tried not to go up too much. I went up by 50 cents. And then the shipping, I put a flat rate of $4. Anyone who wants to order more than one pack, I will immediately refund any shipping overages. It would bump the shipping up a little bit, but it wouldn't bump it all the way up to $8. What it would probably do is put it over into a priority mail category, and the shipping would only be like $6 and something for 2 packs. So this is a really great price. I have done the work of cutting these big sheets out of the sample book and then pre-cutting them to 8.5 by 11. And you can see all of these beautiful patterns. I love that. And especially there's another blue in here that's just gorgeous. This felt really southwestern to me. I love the pastels, but I love that they're so bright. And even these patterns that are somewhat plain, they're really pretty. They're just delicate. Love that. I just wanted to show you this. That looks southwestern especially. Let's see if I can find this really pretty blue. There it is. I love that. So there's a lot in there, as you can see. Just more and more bright, pretty pastels, a lot of lovely blues and kind of rosy pinks in this one. You can always leave a note in your order if you're looking for leaning towards one color more than another. And then I am listing this full of wallpaper scraps from that last book. So you can see it's just page after page of all sorts of samples that could be used for pockets and tabs. They're just really pretty. So this had a lot of the borders in it from that pack. And then once we get to the center, there is a stack of pieces that I didn't want to fold. And I just wrapped this piece of fabric around it to kind of protect it and keep it together. That's a pretty piece of machine embroidered fabric. So that is going into the shop. I think there is one more thing. So I had a listing that I added recently. These are so fun. These are all the little tags that I've been making, and this will continue to get restocked. These pretty little tags from library cards where the cards are partially painted just with all sorts of colors. You have little drops, and you have more solid areas. These are a lot of fun, and then they're just punched out to make tags. So that is in the shop as well. Thank you so much for watching. I am working on another vlog to share everything that went on this week. So I will see you soon, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.